Okay, let's dive into something that really sent the news cycle spinning recently. It involves, well, one of the biggest names in football making a really personal announcement. Kind of unexpected, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you have someone like Aaron Rodgers, his professional life is just so public, right? Everything on the field.
Mm.
So when he makes a reveal about something as private as his marital status, yeah, it grabs headlines, gets people talking.
Right, and it immediately brought up those questions. Okay, wait, is Aaron Rodgers married? And then, well, who is Aaron Rodgers married to? So for this deep dive, we've been digging through the recent articles. We're looking at reports from places like People, ABC News, Fox News, basically covering his public statements and all the speculation around it.
Yeah, and our goal here is pretty straightforward but important. Just using the information of these sources, we want to lay out what's actually being reported. Is Aaron Rodgers married? Who do the sources suggest his wife might be? And also put this into context with his past relationships, again, just based on what these articles describe.
Exactly. Think of this as your way to cut through all the chatter and get straight to what the reporting tells us about Aaron Rodgers' wife and this latest personal update from him. You ready?
Let's do it. So the really concrete news, the thing that confirmed everything, it just dropped. Very recently, actually, according to the reports we're seeing. It was Tuesday, June 10th. During a press conference, Aaron Rodgers himself just stated it directly. He is married.
He did. Just put it right out there. And the sources point out he even gave a little detail on the timing, saying the wedding happened a couple months ago. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It wasn't like, a shotgun thing last week.
Yeah, it gives that sense of, it's already established. It's reality. Now, a really key detail that the sources all emphasize is that while he confirmed the marriage and gave that rough timeline, the reports are clear.
Yeah.
He did not reveal the identity of his wife. Not during that press conference, anyway.
Okay, that's crucial. So he says, yes, I'm married, but stop short of saying I'm married too. And the timing, the sources highlight this too, right? This confirmation lands just days after a huge professional announcement, him signing that new contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's quite a week. Big personal news, big professional news.
Definitely a doubleheader of significant announcements surrounding him. But here's what's fascinating, and where the sources start connecting dots. This confirmation wasn't totally out of the blue. The reports we looked at indicate that marriage rumors, well, they'd actually started swirling before that Juneteenth press conference.
Yes, the speculation was really picking up steam. People magazine, I remember seeing this, pointed out he was spotted wearing like a dark-colored band on his ring finger weeks before. It was May 2nd, 2025. He was at that Barnstable Brown Gala in Louisville, for the Kentucky Derby stuff. That picture definitely kicked off the "Is Aaron Rodgers married?" buzz.
And then, even closer to the actual announcement on Juneteenth, there was another sighting. Fox News, ABC News, they both mentioned seeing him wearing what really looked like a wedding band in a photo. And this photo was shared by the Steelers themselves, announcing his signing. That was the weekend right before his press conference confirmation.
So you've got these two separate public moments where he's seen with a ring right on that finger. And the reports, I think it was People magazine again, added that back when those first ring pictures surfaced in May, his rep didn't comment when the media asked. Just silence then, which, only fueled the rumors more.
Yeah, that silence from his team after the ring sightings, it definitely let the speculation build before he finally confirmed it himself. So, okay, let's talk about how the sources connect this confirmed marriage to someone he had mentioned before. Because, like we said, he didn't name his wife on June 10th, but the reporting points very, very strongly in one particular direction.
Right. The articles we read, they all bring up this relationship update that Rodgers actually shared quite a bit earlier. He first publicly talked about dating a woman named Brittani way back in December 2024. And it was pretty casual, right? He just sort of dropped it during an appearance on the Pat McAfee show.
And didn't he share like a specific little story back then? Something about a stressful situation with a Christmas package he'd ordered for her that was delayed. It was one of those small, everyday details that kind of confirmed, okay, there's someone significant in his life.
Yeah, and apparently there was that funny moment, too, where AJ Hawk, the co-host, made some joke about Spears, and Rodgers had to clarify, no, it's Brittani with an I, not, Britney Spears. It's just interesting how this relationship first came to light, this really casual, almost humorous aside on a sports talk show.
It kind of shows how he sometimes lets glimpses of his private life out, doesn't it? Often on his own terms, in places he seems comfortable, like that show. And the sources, they report that during that same December appearance, he pretty much confirmed he was in love. He actually said, "It's a good feeling, boys." It is. That's pretty direct about his feelings for this Brittani.
And the sources trace the progression, too. They mention that later, in April 2025, again on the Pat McAfee show, he actually described the relationship with Brittani as serious.
hmm And he specifically connected the seriousness of it to being in a different phase of my life.
Mm.
He was 41 at the time. He
Hmm.
mentioned having off-the-field stuff going on that requires my attention. It suggests this relationship was becoming, a major focus, maybe more grounding for him than things earlier in his life or career.
And there's another detail the sources add about Brittani herself, that she's apparently quite private, like no social media presence at all, which seems, well, it seems relevant given Rodgers' own history and what he's said about wanting to keep his personal life out of the spotlight.
Absolutely. So let's try to put this together for you, the listener. While Aaron Rodgers did not say the name Brittani when he confirmed he was married on Juneteenth, the reporting across all these sources consistently links that confirmation back to this previously revealed relationship with Brittani. The implication in the articles is really, really clear that she is the person he married.
But, and this is important to stress, like Fox News specifically pointed out in their report, the identity of the bride is still technically unconfirmed by Rodgers himself in those direct statements where he confirmed the marriage. So you have the media connecting the dots, previous comments, ring sightings, the timeline, but his official confirmation didn't explicitly name her. That distinction, it's pretty key when you're just looking at the reported facts.
And this whole pattern, revealing some things but holding other details back, it kind of leads us into a bit of the historical context around Rodgers and his relationships, which the sources also touched on.
Yeah, it's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
He states this desire for privacy, but he's also had several very high-profile relationships over the years that were, all over the news. The sources bring up Mallory Eaton's, who he was linked to most recently before Brittani, and then, of course, his past relationships with Shailene Woodley, Olivia Munn, and Danica Patrick, all very public figures.
The relationship with Shailene Woodley, the actress, gets particular focus because, well, they were actually engaged. The sources note the engagement was called off around February 2022, and the relationship fully ended a couple of months later, April 2022. That was definitely a relationship that got a massive amount of media attention.
And his own perspective on all this, the fame and relationship stuff, he talked about it pretty openly in his Netflix docuseries from 2024, Aaron Rodgers, Enigma. The sources we read actually referenced that to give some context here.
Yeah, he was quite candid in that, according to the reports. They paraphrase or quote him saying something like, he didn't do myself any favors with some of the girls I dated, specifically talking about how much public attention those relationships brought. It really highlighted his distaste for having his private life under that kind of microscope.
He really went into how tough fame became for his personal life, didn't he? Especially after his career just exploded. Super Bowl MVP, the regular season MVPs, those huge State Farm commercials everywhere. He said in the docuseries, according to the articles, that he hated it at first, like really despised it. That level of fame just made keeping his private life, especially relationships, separate and protected, significantly harder.
So you really see this ongoing tension, right? The reality of being this incredibly famous, successful athlete versus his very consistent stated preference for privacy, particularly when it comes to who he's dating or now married to.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What are the main takeaways from these sources for you listening?
Well, the sources are definite on one thing. Aaron Rodgers is married. He announced it himself, Juneteenth. He added that the wedding was actually a couple months before that. Now, while he didn't name his wife in that announcement, the reporting across these major outlets draws a very strong line, pointing directly to Brittani, the woman he started mentioning publicly late last year, the one he called serious.
So why is this such big news? I think it's because it taps into something relatable, right? You have this huge public figure navigating something incredibly personal and private, getting married. It touches on that feeling many of us have, wanting to keep certain parts of our lives just for ourselves, even if there's outside interest or attention.
Exactly. It's a perfect illustration of that tension we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
His incredibly demanding, high-profile NFL career, which means constant scrutiny, versus his very clear, often stated desire for a private, personal life. And this marriage revealed months after the fact, only after speculation built up from ring sightings, it fits right into that narrative.
Yeah.
Especially as he talks about being in a different phase of his life. It's like watching a very public person try to draw a boundary and the media reporting on exactly where that line is drawn.
It really is a fascinating glimpse into that negotiation between fame and privacy, especially today.
For sure. So the bottom line from the sources, Aaron Rodgers confirmed married. He revealed it himself after those ring sightings fueled speculation. And the reports overwhelmingly suggest his wife is the Brittani he started dating publicly in late 2024, the relationship he described as serious. It marks a new chapter for him, personally and maybe even professionally, and that's how the coverage reflects it.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe chew on. Considering Roger's history, how much he says he values privacy, the challenges he's openly shared about public relationships, what does this confirmed marriage, especially one revealed quietly months later, with the media essentially connecting the final dots on identity, tell us about how really high-profile people manage that boundary, that line between their public image and their most personal commitments? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Even with a deliberate reveal, how much control do you really have over your own story when you live life under that constant spotlight? Something to think about next time you see these headlines.